So, welcome to episode 2 of the Mark 3.5 Cabrio VR6 swap full guide. This is the important one. This is the wiring guide. I just finished up the wiring. I'm going to show you, for the most part, what I'm pretty sure is needed to make this thing work. And there's definitely a lot of differences. It's not easy, but I'll kind of walk you through the process of how to do it in case you need to do it, but I'll also try my best to just put all the information right here and whatnot, so that you can pause the video on some of these papers, on some of these diagrams, on some of my notes, and you can use those in your own way. But hopefully this will work, and hopefully it makes sense. Right here is our donor. It's the Mark III fuse box, and over here was all the wiring for the Mark 3.5. So there's a couple differences to it, mainly the fact that the pinouts for the ECU are on 2 plugs right there versus the one big plug on the VR6. But for the most part, again, kind of like I mentioned in the first video, you have your consistencies of all these plugs, and these are exact one-to-one swaps with the between the cars. So you end up pulling all that stuff out, and then you end up kind of having basically a bunch of extra wires here. They're dangling off, and you go, well, what are these for? So here's what they're for. For the most part, I stripped back a lot of the harness here to figure out where all these went, and hopefully you won't have to, but colors could be different, plugs could be different, so it might vary depending on what VR6 year you have, and what year Mark 3.5 you have. It could all be different, but for the most part, this is what I gathered. For reference, this is a 1997 VR6 harness, I believe, and it was also in a 96 Cabrio, and the harness I have for my Mark 3.5 is a 2000. So that's for any sort of reference. If you have like a 2001, maybe it's different. If you have a 98 harness, maybe it's different, but again, that's what I know. So pretty much I went through and I numbered all these plugs, and these are all the original plugs right here, and I numbered these so you can take a look at kind of the count. And so when I'm talking about plug number 6, plug number 5, it's really good to go through it, maybe number them and take your notes of what you know. Plug number 2, there's plug number 1. So I started with a red plug to basically red plug. This one is a 2-prong or a 2-pin red 2-wire. You have black with yellow, and you have brown with red stripe. Tracing these back, black to yellow goes to the emergency horn right behind the wiper motor. So that's a 1-to-1, black to yellow, and the black to yellow you're going to be splicing to is going to be, on the Mark 3.5, is going to be this 6-pin. So this is a 6-pin red plug to red plug, black yellow. Simple as that. You can't mess that up. You're also going to be using red plug to red plug. The brown to red and brown to red was your hood latch, your hood opening. Your hood is open like sensor. So the only difference between that is that in the Mark III, the sensor is not built into the latch. On the 3.5, you can see over here that is the sensor, and it's built into the hood latch. So you might need to find, when we go to wire this up later into the car, find that plug, and you might have to find this plug and extend the wires to make sure it meets, and then find the plug and splice the plug over. But for the most part, the power for that is coming from this number 1 red plug, which converts over into this red plug. There's brown to red. It is 1-to-1. So that's good news. So that's plug number 1. Plug number 2 was this brown 2-pin, just like that. It had a gray with white stripe and a solid yellow. So I believe gray to white was So gray white goes to gray yellow, and then the yellow just doesn't matter, because what I found was when I traced the yellow, it traced to a pin onto the ECU, and that pin on the ECU is for the transmission control module. This is a manual transmission. I can't imagine that it needs that. And on the 3.5, there is no transmission control module. So that's kind of the biggest difference from what I found. So basically, the yellow, just in case, you know, I need it in the future, I have it just dangling, and I marked it trans control, maybe. If you know what that wire does, leave in the comments. Someone might need to know. I might need to know. I don't know. If we have an issue with that, we'll find out. So that one just dangles, and then the yellow, the gray to white and gray to yellow. So gray to white and gray to yellow. This is for your OBD, I believe. It was like your data control center, which so I'm pretty certain your OBD. And I'm pretty sure gray to yellow on the Mark 3.5 was your data control center, and so that's why we went gray to yellow to gray to white on this plug. And this is the plug for the 3.5. It's a 3-pin. Well, it's a 3-pin 4-wire plug. This wire goes to your coolant level sensor. So that we're gonna see if that works in mine, but regardless, if it doesn't, then we'll know. And I'm gonna make sure I try to label that. So that's plug number 2. It's just those two. So yeah, you might be able to just get away with leaving this thing unplugged, but you won't have OBD working, and you're pretty much just spitballing on if the motor is running right. And maybe the OBD won't work even after I wire this up, but you know what? We're giving it a shot. Okay, plug number 3. Plug number 3. Plug number 3 was this plug, and this is part of the harness. This I just left on because plug number 3 is it's for ABS. So this doesn't mean anything because the ABS system on the 3.5 is running standalone. It doesn't run through the ECU harness like on this one it does, because there's 2 ABS sensor plugs, and there's this ABS plug, and it doesn't make a difference because the Mark 3.5 runs it standalone. So we're just leaving it there. We're gonna leave it unplugged, and that shouldn't affect anything. So then plug number 4 is these are the plugs that actually really do matter. It's going to be a 2-pin or a 3-pin 2-wire green, black and green, and black and white. And these are for your turn signals. So this goes to the front to your turn signal bulbs. So you can't really this all splices together because there's 2 plugs with green and black and green and white. This is the other one. But I do believe pretty much what I did was for number 4, there's 2 different sets, and one of them comes with there's a 2-pin and there's a 2-pin, right? So this is from the 3.5. It's a 2-pin. I'm just doing 2-pin to 2-pin, green and black, white and black, or black and green, black and white wires. 2-pin to 2-pin, pretty straightforward. Then plug number 5 is a 3-pin 3-wire, also black green, black white, but there's also a purple white. And the purple white is for MFA. So if you have the special stocks that let you show you like miles per gallon on your dashboard, let you show you your miles per gallon, you know, average speed, that sort of stuff. If your dash has that, that's what the purple wire is for. So you could certainly just leave the purple wire because my 3.5 doesn't have that. Maybe your 3.5 does have that, but my 3.5 does not. So this is basically just a wire that's not going to do anything. Regardless, I did transfer it over to a different one because it is an instrument light, so it probably won't do anything, but there was a single pin purple to black, and so I did the purple to white to purple to black, and that might do something. Otherwise it might not. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, because I don't have that in my 3.5. So again, pretty simple. 3-pin, this guy goes to these 2, or these 3, right? You have your separate one, and you have your 2-pin. So that's your transfer. Change over to that. And then your your 2-wire 3-pin that I talked about earlier, that actually goes into this red plug as well. There's a black green and there's a black white in this red pin, and that's everything for your red pin. These two, no idea what they do, but I did wonder if the purple black on here maybe goes to the purple white. Maybe that's true. It's certainly something that could be tested out with like a wire probe on the pin and pin it to that, and maybe something will start working. But I took a guess and said that, well, because there's these 3 pins were together, it would go with the 3-pin. So that was my assumption, because it's Volkswagen and, you know, stuff like they kind of, everything's supposed to be somewhat intuitive. And let's see, pin number 6, this is the last one. This was green. This was on the forum post that I was looking into, but the forum post was a 2-liter to 2-liter wiring harness swap, and I guess the VR6 to 2-liter is not exactly the same. So, but this one was pretty similar. The green and white, it has yellow, green and white, and fully green. The yellow and the green are for your AC system. So green is your AC on. On my wiring diagram, it said it was to ignition, which doesn't make sense. On a different diagram, it said it was for AC on, which makes a lot more sense because the yellow one goes directly to the AC condenser plug. So obviously, like, you would have your AC on and your AC condenser sensor plug. And then the green and white goes to an M12 valve that's like sitting above the brake reservoir. No idea what the M12 valve is necessarily doing, but that's a 1-to-1 direct swap. And that one went into this one. Once again, we're back to this guy. We had the gray and yellow, gray to white, but there was a green and yellow. And then I think I just took the yellow and did yellow to yellow just because I figured they're probably the same. It's not makes a difference. I'm not using AC in this car. I'm deleting AC. If you're keeping AC, then these are some things to note. And then this wire, I believe, like I said, coolant level sensor. So if that doesn't work, we'll know why. And these two are direct swap, the yellow and the blue. Those just swap into the 3.5 without a problem. So yeah, these are the plugs that you need, basically. That's it. That's all it should take to get the VR6 to run in the Mark 3.5 system. So all I gotta do now is I have to wrap up all of this sort of stuff and make it look a little bit nicer. I do need to probably change a couple. I think there was a module in here that was like super corroded. Yeah, like that probably isn't good with all that corrosion. So I'm gonna try to maybe clean those or swap them or something, because I don't trust that. And then the last thing that's going to be needed to be done at some point is the headlight harnesses are different. Now the headlight color wires are the same, so it should be pretty direct plug and play, but they are different, because this one, all of the headlights are on their own separate thing. See? And on the 3.5, they're all on one like communal plug, basically. So you want to wire in the 3.5 plug and all the wires for the 3 into that 3.5 plug. I might just wait until it's in the car and it's like right at the end, because the wire colors are the same and it's no big deal. But yeah, that should be everything. This thing's got a ton extra plugs on it. Like, what's this blue plug do? Probably something with evap, maybe. What's I think those are under the hood, maybe. What's the blue plug do? No idea. What's this yellow one do? No idea. So there's a couple extra stuff. My assumption is this is just for evap. I do think this is hopefully everything. Now I'm going to show you here at the end all of the documents that I have, and you can just take a screenshot or pause the video, screenshot it. You can use these as references because these are shop keys, so you have to, like, these are the diagrams that you can pull from like working in an auto shop. These are what auto shop guys get, but you need to pay a ton of money to get them. And then I'll give you my notes. So first up, I'm going to do my notes, and you can just pause it and take a screenshot, and we'll go from there. This is for the VR6. Again, colors were changed a little bit different on mine, so it might not be accurate, but this is for your VR6, and this goes from, that's your ECU plug outwards. There's also a second one that pairs with that, I believe. It's right here. So some of those wire colors might change. This is the 2-liter Mark 3.5 harness. It's got some notes on there, but for the most part, it should be good. Here's the headlight harness for the Mark 3.5. So there's your cooling fan circuit. I'm holding on to that. Also, if you're interested, here's what the engine harness for a Mark III cabby is with the 2-liter. There you guys have it. That is hopefully the complete wiring guide for a VR6 Mark III into a Mark 3.5 Cabrio. At the end of the day, like I said, these are very easy swaps. It's 4 plugs, and if you mess it up that bad, your turn signals might not work, and some optional features might not work on your car that aren't necessarily like, yeah, it'd be nice to have an OBD2 port, but if you also know kind of how your engine runs, shouldn't make that much of a difference, you know? If it's running weird, you'll kind of know, but it is nice to have those sort of luxury features, and if we can keep them, I want to try to do that. So that's hopefully the goal here with this. If you have done the swap before, you know that I messed something up, please put it in the comments. It'd be nice to know for my sake, but also for other people's sake, because the wiring for this is kind of like, yes, it's easy, but not everyone really wants to dig into these wiring, and no one wants to rip apart their harness and do all this work. And so if there's, if it's easier just to be like, it's this wire to this wire and this wire to this wire, that's what I want to do. That was my goal. And just to simplify this for someone else in the future for the swap, because I think the 3.5s are great. They're cool cars. I'm obviously not getting rid of mine. I inherited it, but it's not hard to do, and I figure it's definitely worth just making sure we have the information right and out there and easily accessible for the community, because at the end of the day, Volkswagen guys are awesome, and I enjoy meeting Volkswagen dudes, talking to them about their cars, and I enjoy all the cars. So if there's any way I can improve the community, that's kind of my goal. So like I said, if there is something I missed, please let me know. There's going to be a couple other things I'm sure I'll have to mention again, like with the harnesses. There might be some wire extending going on and whatnot there, but I think this is kind of the bulk and the scariest part to get to. So in the next episode, we'll probably have the motor going back in, and we'll see if this wiring actually works.